First off, philosophy is a confession.
Philosophy is a confession. Don't love somebody that you don't like.
So imagine this. You're holding tightly onto the steering wheel of life, knuckles white, eyes fixed on the road ahead. You believe that the tighter you hold on, the more in control you are. That if you just plan enough, organize enough, predict enough, then everything will go as it should. But life doesn't always respond to pressure. In fact, quite often, it resists it. And the paradox is this. The moment you finally loosen your grip, life begins to flow, and you start to breathe. What if the very thing standing between you and a deeper, more meaningful life is control? In the next few minutes, we will explore how the desire to control everything around us, our future, our image, our emotions, and even the people we love, can silently imprison us. More importantly, we'll uncover why letting go is not a sign of weakness or failure, but the beginning of true inner power. The last insight we'll explore is the most powerful of all. It may completely change the way you see yourself and the world around you. So stay with me. This is not just a discussion. This could be the beginning of a profound shift in your consciousness. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist and one of the most influential thinkers in psychology, believed that much of our suffering comes from our resistance to life as it truly is. He argued that the unconscious mind, what he called the shadow, holds immense power, and that our attempt to suppress, control, or deny this shadow is precisely what keeps us in inner conflict. Think about that. Have you ever felt exhausted not by what's happening around you, but by your constant need to manage it all? The endless striving to keep things in order, to make sure nothing goes wrong, to shape outcomes that are ultimately beyond your reach. Here's a hard truth. Control is an illusion, a comforting, convincing illusion, but an illusion nonetheless. Jung taught that the ego, our conscious sense of self, is obsessed with control. It wants to protect us from uncertainty. It wants to predict, prevent, and perfect. But life does not operate according to the ego's rules. Life is not linear. It is not logical. It is not always kind. It is wild, chaotic, beautiful, and often completely unpredictable. And that's not a flaw in the system. It's the essence of existence. Consider this. How much energy do we waste trying to force things to happen on our timeline? How often do we cling to people, situations, or identities that no longer serve us simply because we fear losing control? And what would happen if we loosened our grip, even slightly? Letting go is not giving up. It is surrendering to the deeper intelligence of life. It is recognizing that there are forces at play within us and around us that are far greater than our individual will. This does not mean we become passive. It means we stop trying to push the river and instead learn how to flow with it. The Taoist philosopher Lao Tzu said, "By letting it go, it all gets done." In this simple line, he echoes a truth that modern psychology has only recently begun to grasp, that surrender, when done consciously, is an act of supreme courage. Carl Jung referred often to the process of individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are. This process cannot occur if you are obsessed with maintaining control, because the real self, the authentic self, lives beyond control. It lives in the unknown. To become whole, you must allow parts of yourself to emerge that you've previously denied. You must welcome uncertainty. You must make peace with chaos, and you must let go, not of responsibility, but of resistance. Let me ask you this. What in your life right now are you holding on to too tightly? Is it an expectation, a belief, a person, a version of yourself that no longer feels real? The deeper question is, what are you afraid will happen if you let go? This fear, this anxiety is natural. Jung explained that the shadow, the part of the psyche we often reject, holds not just our darkness, but our hidden power. And when we suppress or deny it, we don't become safer, we become more fragmented. So often we try to control life because we are afraid of what will be revealed if we stop pretending. But real growth doesn't come from controlling the narrative. It comes from facing what is true, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how uncertain. Letting go of control is not the end of the road. It's the beginning of transformation. And this transformation starts with awareness. Awareness of how your need for control shows up. Do you micromanage everything? Do you become anxious when things don't go as planned? Do you struggle to trust others, to delegate, to be vulnerable? These are signs, not of failure, but of a mind that has been conditioned to believe that safety equals control. But what if safety could come from trust? Not blind trust in everything turning out perfectly, but trust in your own ability to meet life as it comes. Jung believed that what we resist persists, and that only by integrating the unconscious can we truly heal. That means looking at your fears, not trying to eliminate them, but understanding them, sitting with them, listening to what they're trying to protect you from. Letting go, then, is not something you do once and forget. It is a daily practice, a spiritual discipline, a psychological reorientation. It is choosing, moment by moment, to breathe rather than clench, to respond rather than react, to accept rather than deny. And in doing so, something miraculous begins to happen. Life meets you where you are, not where you pretend to be, not where you plan to be, but where you actually are. And from that place, from that surrender, new possibilities begin to emerge. Unexpected paths, deep connections, inner peace. Let me ask you again, what might you discover if you let go? What would it feel like to stop trying to be in control of everything and instead become more in tune with the natural rhythm of life? Could it be that what you've been looking for all along isn't certainty, but flow? And that flow begins not when you know all the answers, but when you allow the questions to lead you. There's a quiet wisdom in the natural world, one that rarely screams, but always speaks. Look at a river. It doesn't fight the obstacles in its path. It moves around them, sometimes slowly, sometimes with force, but always with purpose. And in its flow, it shapes the very landscape that tries to contain it. Now, contrast this with how we often live, resisting, forcing, striving, trying to impose our plans, our beliefs, our pace onto life. And when life doesn't cooperate, we tighten our grip even more. But here's the paradox. The more we try to control, the more we suffer. Because control ultimately is a response to fear. It's a defense mechanism, a way to avoid vulnerability, disappointment, or pain. But avoidance is not freedom. Carl Jung's work taught us that true transformation begins where control ends. He observed that the human psyche contains immense potential, but only when we stop pretending that we are fully in charge. He once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Let that sink in. So many of our struggles, anxieties, and patterns come not from the external world, but from within. Hidden beliefs, suppressed emotions, unmet needs. And our obsession with control keeps these parts buried, hidden from view. We think we are managing life, when in truth we are managing our fear of life. Have you ever tried to control how someone sees you? Or worried obsessively about how things will turn out? Or refused to let go of something, even when every sign told you it was time? These are not failures. They're symptoms. They show that there's something deeper we haven't yet learned to trust. That's the core issue. Trust. Letting go requires it. And trust, real trust, is not naive. It's not the blind hope that nothing bad will happen. It's the deep inner knowing that whatever does happen, you will meet it with presence, with grace, and with courage. This is not weakness. It's the strength that arises when you stop wasting energy on what you cannot control and begin investing it in what you can, your awareness, your attitude, your choices. Psychologist Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of the Holocaust, wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power to choose. That space is where freedom lives. And when you let go of control, you begin to widen that space. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to live more consciously. This is not theory, it's practice. And it starts small. Can you breathe through discomfort? rather than fight it? Can you sit with uncertainty rather than run from it? Can you hold space for not knowing rather than rushing to find answers? Every time you do this, you reclaim a part of yourself that fear once held captive. And as you do, something profound begins to happen. Your identity starts to shift. You are no longer the one desperately holding the reins. You become the one who can ride the wave. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming whole. It's about welcoming every part of you, the brave, the broken, the messy, the wise, and allowing them all to coexist without needing to control or suppress any of them. Now, let's go even deeper. The compulsion to control often masks something much older, much more ancient in us. A wound, perhaps from childhood, perhaps from early life experiences that taught us the world is dangerous, that love must be earned, that safety must be constructed and defended. In response, we build walls, we create systems, we become masters of detail, of planning, of perfectionism. But behind all of it, there's a simple, aching need to feel safe, to feel that it's okay to be, to feel that we don't have to manage everything in order to survive. When we let go of control, we don't become reckless. We become real. We become available to the moment. We allow ourselves to connect more deeply with others because we're no longer performing. We allow ourselves to feel more fully because we're no longer afraid of being overwhelmed. And we allow ourselves to live more authentically because we're no longer clinging to a fixed idea of how things should be. Let me ask you again, where in your life are you holding on too tightly? What might shift if you loosened your grip? What if your need to control is no longer serving you, but actually keeping you stuck? The great spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle once said, "Sometimes letting things go is an act of far greater power than defending or hanging on." So ask yourself, is your tight grip making you stronger or just more tired? And here's the secret most people miss. When you release control, you don't lose your power, you finally access it. Because power doesn't come from rigidity, it comes from resilience. It comes from being rooted enough in yourself to face the unknown without panic. It comes from trusting the deeper flow of life, the same flow that grows forests, moves oceans, and breathes through your lungs without you ever needing to think about it. You are part of that flow. You were never meant to control it. You were meant to move with it. So stop trying to fix everything, to force everything, to figure it all out, and instead, listen, surrender, pay attention. Align yourself not with your fears, but with your truth. This doesn't mean giving up responsibility. It means shifting where your responsibility lies. Not in managing outcomes, but in managing your presence. Not in controlling others, but in understanding yourself. Not in perfecting the future, but in meeting the present fully. This is where life begins to flow. And the deeper you go into this practice, the more you discover that letting go is not a one-time event. It's a rhythm, a cycle, a dance. You let go, you come back, you let go again. And with each letting go, you come home to yourself. Let's go even deeper now, because what we're talking about isn't just a surface-level strategy for coping with stress. This is about a fundamental shift in the way we perceive reality, a shift that Carl Jung spent his life exploring. The unconscious mind, Jung taught, is not just a vault of forgotten memories or repressed trauma. It is alive, active, powerful. And when we stop trying to dominate it, when we stop trying to control every thought, every emotion, every outcome, we begin to hear its voice. And that voice is full of wisdom. You see, control silences that inner voice. It overrides your intuition, drowns out your instincts, suppresses your authentic desires. Because when you're trying to control life, there's no space for listening, only for reacting, resisting, and redirecting. But when you let go, you begin to hear again. You begin to feel again. And what you feel might surprise you, not fear, but freedom. Not confusion, but clarity. Not weakness, but strength. Because underneath our fear of letting go is the hidden truth that we are far more capable than we imagine. Let's talk about emotion. Control is often a defense mechanism designed to protect us from emotional vulnerability. We fear being seen, we fear being judged, we fear being hurt. So we try to control the narrative. We try to appear perfect, composed, in charge. But that need to appear strong often robs us of genuine connection. Carl Jung warned us about the dangers of the persona, the social mask we wear to fit in. Over time, we can begin to mistake this mask for who we really are. We become trapped in roles: the achiever, the caregiver, the warrior, the perfectionist, and we control our lives not for joy, but to maintain the illusion. The illusion of being okay, the illusion of having it all together. But behind every illusion is a deeper truth, waiting patiently to be seen. Letting go of control means daring to remove the mask, to admit we don't always know, to admit we're scared, to admit we need help. And in that moment of honesty, something powerful happens. We become real, we become human, and in our humanity, we become connected, not only to others, but to ourselves. Now think about this. How often do we try to control our emotions? We label them good or bad, acceptable or shameful. We suppress anger, dismiss sadness, hide our fear. But these emotions are not mistakes. They are messengers. They are there to be acknowledged, felt, understood. Letting go of control means allowing yourself to feel fully, without judgment. It means honoring your emotional experience instead of trying to manage it away. And when you do this, you tap into a well of inner truth that no amount of external control could ever provide. This is emotional freedom. This is psychological maturity. And this is where real growth begins. But let's be clear, letting go is not passive, it's not resignation. It's not a shrug of the shoulders or a decision to give up. Letting go is active, conscious, courageous. It is the deliberate choice to release what no longer serves you. It is the intentional act of creating space for something more authentic, more aligned, more alive. Letting go of control does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you learn to care without attachment, to act without desperation, to engage without manipulation. This is one of the hardest truths for many of us to accept. You can do your best and still not get the outcome you wanted, but you can also do your best and receive something far greater than you imagined. Life responds to presence, not pressure. And when you stop forcing, you allow. You allow space for miracles, for insights, for synchronicities. Jung often spoke of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem to defy logic, but carry deep psychological and spiritual significance. These moments arise not when we're forcing life to obey us, but when we're in alignment with life's deeper rhythms. They are not random. They are invitations. Invitations to trust that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Have you ever experienced that? A moment of perfect timing, a chance meeting, a subtle but powerful shift that seemed to come from nowhere. That's the magic that enters when control exits. And that magic doesn't come from the mind. It comes from the deeper self. Jung believed in what he called the self with a capital S. Not the ego, not the role, but the full integrated self, the totality of who you are. The self is not interested in your plans. It is not limited by your fears. It is vast, deep, intuitive, and wise, and it begins to speak more clearly when you quiet the noise of control. The path to the self is a path of surrender, not surrender to others, not surrender to chaos, but surrender to the truth of who you are beneath the masks and strategies. And that path, though not easy, is the path to real peace. Because peace does not come from perfection. Peace comes from presence. It comes from accepting what is, from embracing the moment as it is, not as you wish it to be. Letting go doesn't mean life stops being messy. It means you stop needing it to be clean. It means you make peace with the mess. You stop fighting your emotions. You stop resisting your path. You stop demanding that life obey your will. And instead you begin to listen, to trust, to align. And the moment you do, something shifts. Not just outside, but within. You begin to feel a deeper current moving through you. You begin to walk more lightly, breathe more fully, live more honestly. And from that place you can finally begin to ask the bigger questions. Who am I, really? What am I here for? What does life want from me, not just for me? These are not questions control can answer. They are questions the soul responds to when we're quiet enough to listen. So here we are, approaching the heart of this journey. So far, we've uncovered why control is a seductive but empty promise. We've explored how letting go leads to emotional liberation, deeper presence, and alignment with our true nature. But there is still one final insight left, the most powerful of all, one that may completely change how you see yourself, your pain, your path, and the role of surrender in your evolution. And that's where we'll go next. Imagine for a moment that everything you've ever tried to control, every detail you micromanaged, every outcome you obsessed over, every fear you tried to avoid, wasn't a mistake. It was a lesson, a sacred lesson pointing to the truth you were never taught, that life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be participated in, surrendered to, and ultimately trusted. But here's the most powerful truth of all, the one we've been leading toward this entire time. Letting go of control is not about losing something. It's about coming home to something. And that something is your essence, your deepest self, your wholeness. Carl Jung knew this. He dedicated his life to understanding what it truly means to be whole. He saw that we spend so much of our lives trying to control what's outside of us, only to eventually face what we've been avoiding inside of us. But when we stop fighting our inner world, we find that the very things we tried to suppress, the fears, the wounds, the uncertainties, hold the key to our transformation. Here is what Jung taught that is so often overlooked. The path to becoming whole requires the integration of our shadow. The parts of us we deny, reject, hide, or fear, those are not our enemies. They are parts of ourselves, asking to be seen, embraced, and healed. And here's where it all comes together. The need to control is often the ego's attempt to keep the shadow at bay, to keep things neat, predictable, safe. But the soul doesn't grow in safety. It grows in truth. It grows when we dare to face the unknown within us and say, I'm not here to manage life anymore, I'm here to meet it. Letting go of control means allowing the full range of your humanity to exist. Your light and your darkness, your certainty and your doubt, your strength and your fragility. And in that allowance, you begin to awaken, not to a version of yourself that is perfect, but to a version of yourself that is real. And this is the essence of the journey Jung described as individuation, the process of becoming your most authentic self by integrating all aspects of your psyche. This is where healing happens, not in the fixing, but in the facing, not in domination, but in devotion to your own truth. So what does this look like in practice? It looks like showing up honestly, even when you don't have the answers. It looks like saying yes to your path, even when it terrifies you. It looks like trusting that your pain has meaning, even if you can't see it yet. And it looks like remembering every single day that you don't have to control life to be held by it. You don't have to have all the answers to live with purpose. You don't have to suppress your vulnerability to be strong. There is a deeper intelligence moving through your life, even now, even in your confusion, even in your doubt, even in your letting go. Can you trust it? Can you open your hands and release the illusion of control? Because here's the truth. What you truly want, peace, joy, connection, meaning, these are not things you can force. They are things you must allow. They arise not from mastery over life, but from alignment with life. And this alignment requires surrender, not as a last resort, but as a sacred choice. Now let's pause and ask the question that may change everything. What are you still trying to control that is keeping you small? What are you gripping so tightly that you've forgotten how to feel? What if the very thing you fear losing is what you were never meant to carry? You see, when we stop trying to shape life to our expectations, we begin to see life as it truly is, a mirror, a teacher, a reflection of our inner state. And when we shift our inner state, when we replace fear with trust, rigidity with openness, control with surrender, everything begins to change, not always on the outside, but always without fail on the inside. And that is where your true power lives, not in the ability to dominate life, but in the courage to dance with it, to trust that even in uncertainty, you are not lost. Even in letting go, you are not falling. You are being carried. This is not poetic comfort. This is existential truth. The more you let go of who you think you're supposed to be, the more you become who you truly are. And that is freedom. Because when you finally let go of control, you stop living from your mind alone and start living from your soul. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop grasping and start receiving. You stop fearing and start flowing. And life meets you, powerfully, unexpectedly, beautifully, exactly where you are. So as we bring this reflection to a close, remember this. Letting go is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the beginning of living fully, feeling deeply, loving freely, and becoming wholly yourself. It is the path of every seeker, every philosopher, every awakened soul who has dared to trust the wisdom within. And it is your path too. So take a breath, open your hands, and take that first brave step into the unknown, not with fear, but with reverence. Because life begins to flow when you let go of control. And now I invite you to reflect deeply. What is one thing in your life right now that you're ready to let go of? Share it in the comments, name it, release it. Let this be the moment you choose to trust the current and rediscover the strength that was never in control, but always in surrender. This is your turning point. This is where your life begins to flow. And this is just the beginning. Thanks for looking.
Alright, that about wraps it up for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the support. Be sure and like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment, share it, tell a friend.